Welcome to Grief Beats, Season 2. I am Valarie Allyn, and this is a raw and honest share of my journey with grief. My grief started about 8 years ago. I lost my dad suddenly, and then my son, Z, to an accidental overdose a couple years after that. And I really jumped into trying to connect to the other side, and that was my instinct. Where can I find him? He's not here anymore. I can find him on the other side. So in season 1, I talked a lot about meditation and connection. And initially, going into my grief, I got to share this with you because this is where that deep faith comes from, and that light that I can bring to Grief Beats because of this vision that I experienced the night I lost Z. So the vision, very surreal, very much like a dream experience, but it was deeper and more vivid and more, it was clear, just as clear as this is now. And so in this vision, I'm standing in this huge white space, and Z is standing in the middle of that space, and I on the outside of that space watching him. And he's looking forward just at this white space, and suddenly, kind of right above his head, the space cuts open and unfolds, and these majestic beings start coming out and lining up in front of him until there's this little space where 3 more beings come through and stand in front of him. There's this silence, this moment of recognition, and the beings start leaving through the unfolded area, and they keep going until there are only the last 3 standing, and they have another moment where they're aware of each other and just looking at each other, and the 3 beings leave and Z goes with them, and the fold seals up, and I am found standing alone in this empty white space. And I immediately kind of snap out of it and reach for my phone, and well, he didn't answer his phone. He was already gone and on the other side. And I feel like that vision was a gift and almost a necessity. I think if I did not have that vision, my grief walk would be very different today. That vision allowed me insight into the universe, and the fact that life does go on, and he's left his physical form, but he is with me and so close. Like if those beings could come through and share that with me and know he was crossing, they're that close. So that vision afforded me the gift of light and also the desire to want to live. After losing a child, the unraveling, my God, I don't even remember most of year number 1. It was so intense and so confusing. And, now 8 years later, I can look at that moment and know that I was trying to put everything back the way it was, to continue the way I was, and try to just work hard, meditate, and that was what I could do. But what I didn't know then was that I too died, and I would never be the same again. And like the day that my son crossed over, his pain stopped, but mine just began. And it's taken me all these years of practice, and believe me, I don't get it right all the time, and exploring, the meditation and quiet space, and trying to figure out then how to navigate, the common world or the human experience that I'm having, and kind of starting from the very beginning. And it's like And it's not really that one starts from the very beginning. You know, when you recognize that you too died and you'll never be the same with within your grief walk, you also then have to take, that information and walk into the demands of the human experience, like work and survival and friendships and relationships that are different now because you've changed so much. So the last 8 years, I have really kind of played out every scenario. You know, waited a year, but I sold absolutely everything and moved, and have been trying to kind of refresh my life experience. And I have, and it's been good to change and good to move for me, at least in the way that I operate in my energetic space, because I love to be constantly moving. And with that constant movement, I'm really aware of that change is the only constant, and um, unraveling the conditioning also of my childhood, and the concepts of life and how life should be versus how life actually turns out and how it truly is. And nobody really knows the amount of time that each individual is going to have, or the experience that you're going to have. Life, it's a roller coaster ride, to say the least. So in Grief Beats, I want to, in season 2, really get deeper into the expansion of grief. And I know that sounds like crazy, but what I've discovered is the only relief or peace that I find with my grief walk is to really embrace my expansion. And it's rough, man, because grief, you can't get rid of it, you can't break up with it, and grief has really forced me up against the wall into this expansion that I was not ready for, or at least I wasn't expecting. I guess in really learning about myself through this grief walk and really understanding the strength of soul and spirit and past lives, that one can grow and expand and find space in a physical experience of suffering and pain. And I know there have been a lot of amazing thinkers that really speak to those ideas. And in season 2 with Grief Beats, I really want to get deeper into the human experience, not just with my loss, but grief in general and change in general, because that's kind of where I find myself now, like within this, like the what's next. I've spent 8 years really connecting and having incredible breakthroughs with my meditation, and of course having incredible breakdowns in my human experience, when I have bad days. So again, back to, it is a roller coaster ride. Grief is not linear at all, but it is permanent. And the relationship that I'm developing with grief now is one where I will not be taken prisoner, or I will not be bullied. I want to be like, have this mutual exchange between grief and myself, in the sense of what my soul is here to do, and the expansion required and the growth required, so that I can leave some solid information behind and hopefully inspire others and connect with others. And by the time it's my time to cross over, to be complete with the growth and the learning that needs to come from this experience, so I don't have to do this again. Seriously, honestly, this grief walk and this challenge is so much bigger than Valarie, human Valarie, but I am learning that my soul can do it. And I want to bring this power and this energy into Grief Beats to, not only have the cathartic experience for myself, but grief is really isolating. And this is going to sound kind of crazy, but when I first started grieving, I actually Googled grief and I couldn't find anything to grab onto or anyone to grab onto, literally in the physical world. I mean, I did eventually, meet uh, other grieving humans and have been creating this grief tribe of mine, which I do also want to share with you as season 2 unravels. But I just wanted to do an introduction, and um, welcome you to season 2. So I can't wait to see what comes through and what gifts I get to receive and get to share. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a great day.